And now let's go for the second presentation. I'm so glad to invite now Frederic Etienbled. Who is Frederic? Frederic is a specialist of retail. He has worked 14 years, I say, right, for Carrefour in Asia, in Japan, in Korea, in Thailandia. He's now based in Thailandia. He is a partner of OPENCatman with Hypertrade, a category management company specialized in helping retailers and manufacturers to implement category management and make decisions through data. And we have the opportunity today to receive Frederic, who's going to share with us how to manage data from assortment to make decision of assortment in the stores and in markets. Good morning, Frederic. Bonjour, Frederic. Frederic is
Bonjour.
and he is one of the product of globalization, as I was in the past, as I am now, who went to make his business in Asia. So it's very late for you. What time is it in Thailandia?
It's close to 11 p.m.
Oh, thank you so much for being part of this webinar today. And well, we have to learn about your experience managing data and making decisions from data.
Okay, well, thank you very much for having me. Actually, I'm going to share my screen. Good morning, everybody. It's really a privilege to be here. And I'm really sorry not to be able to speak Spanish and to speak English with a French accent. So just a very quick words about me. So I founded a company called Hypertrade 20 years ago. And prior to this, I was working for Carrefour as a merchandise director in different countries like Japan, Korea, like Frederic said. And Hypertrade was created with one idea in mind, which is to work a little bit more collaboratively between suppliers and retailers. And as technology advanced, we had the chance to bring that collaboration to a new dimension. So today, Hypertrade is a strategic partners that bridge the gap between supply and demand. How? By delivering actionable data and insights. So which means that we take data, dirty data, dislocated data, raw data, put them together in a common language and help people make decisions on this. So, and how do we do this? We are mixing retail expertise and technology. So we enable basically both retailers and suppliers to jointly understand their customers a little bit deeper. So our mission is pretty simple. And is really to enable a team to use their data better and help them in the daily headache of knowing what decision to take that is going to deliver the best performance. And over the years, we've been very lucky. We've been working in a lot of very different markets with a lot of very different companies, from big international corporation to local retailers and local manufacturers or industrial or international manufacturers. And where we're putting our help is mostly on the key components of either we call it the merchandising chain or we call it the value chain. Over the years, we were talking about all the things that changed, but hopefully there is one thing that really didn't change, and maybe it didn't change for thousands of years. This is the fact that category management, like Bill and Brian were telling before, remains the same. It's about having the right product at the right place at the right moment at the right price. And this one didn't change. Now, the things that change are the tactics, the tools, the methodologies we're using. Now, when we look at, if we were just comparing today with the 10 years, and I think we've all been through this, the change have been tremendous. I really love the slide that Brian and Bill were sharing about how speed is even faster when we looked at the adoption and the internet a few 15 years, if I remember the slide, and ChatGPT. We had similar things actually in retail. And as you know from consumer behavior, we've been experiencing this sometimes very painfully since the COVID eras to sustainability, personalization. The things change so fast, which changes one thing, but at the same time, what it created is an unstoppable amount of data points. So this is today the biggest challenge we are facing. And I think the previous presentation was really explaining how AI can help us navigate, sort, make the most of all those data points. And then we're using AI in different areas, but the areas we wanted to share with you today is about assortment. Because when we have all this information from unified retailing, loyalty, shopping, we have an increasingly big pressure on a certain number of KPI we need to either increase or decrease. But then the question is, out of all those data that we're having, billions, depending on the store size or the channel size, how can we make sure that we use those data to build assortments that really match customers' preferences at store, at every single store? So, and of course, that isn't addressing the localization question. So this is a question we started to ask ourselves at Hypertrade 2 years ago, and we really wanted, we knew that we had no choice but using machine learning, one part of AI. And at the same time, because we are retailers at heart, we also wanted to make sure that either the brand manager or the retail manager could, first of all, be able to pilot it. I'm opening a little parenthesis. The thing which is complex, as some of you might know, maybe everybody knows, is that creating a very powerful algorithm is not simple, but it's not that complicated, because today there is a multitude of extremely powerful open source algorithms everywhere. What is difficult is to find the right cursor to be able to manage the parameters without having engineers to change the parameters. And so us, the first level of parameters we wanted to put in the hand of the driver was, first of all, give them the ability to choose whether they want to prioritize volume, value, or profitability. The second thing, in order not to disrupt operation, was to make sure that whatever the option they select, they still have the ability to maintain their existing store clusters. And I'm sure we all have been through those very difficult stages of building the right store cluster, which actually doesn't really exist, but because things change. But this is a constant, this is a permanent focus that we have. And then we also thought about the people who manage the range. Again, it can be the manufacturer presenting a range to a retailer. It can be the category manager, but trying to find ways to make sure that they can easily pilot at least their core assortments, their sub-core assortments, and always be in control. Because there is this idea of saying, for example, I have 500 stores and I want to have 500 different specific assortment. That is fantastic on paper. The AI can do that, but then the guy has to manage that, right? So those were the three key elements that we took. And then you will see we added a certain number of other simple parameters, and we made a choice not to have too many. So the system can be run independently by people without having PhDs to fine-tune the system all the time. So how did we do it? Nothing rocket science. Like Bill and Brian were saying before, it starts with customer segmentation. So we do start with customer segmentation. And when we are looking at a retailer, we are looking at the entirety of the store network. So it means we are segmenting customers across every single format and channel. And once we have done those different segments, which we fine-tune using some very common KPI like average basket, like item value, like the number of items in baskets. Once we have done that, then for every single segment, what we do is we list out their favorite products. And we put them from the most favorite to the last favorite. So you imagine that we have a super large multi-dimensional matrix when we said, okay, we know that for that retailer, there are X customer segments, and by category, each segment's preference is this. Then when we have that matrix and we are just going to apply it to the selected store scope. So once we apply to the selected store scope, that's not easy to say, the first thing that we're going to look at is what is the weight of each customer segment in every single store. And once we have identified that, we're going to use the last engine, which is going to optimize the assortment based on the weight of each customer segment, the priorities of the optimization, and the constraint that the user is going to put. And so this is as simple as this. I'm going to show you in a minute from a mechanic perspective, how does this really work? But before that, just a word of caution in the sense that we know that optimizing or rationalizing the assortment, it's not just about doing an algorithm. It's a thought process. It starts with financial feasibility, because if I know I'm going to reduce my assortment, I know I will have to invest some money. I need to make sure that I'm going to invest the amount of money or margin as my budget allows me, which means then I will have to prioritize the categories I want to do. And I know I'm going to go through a pilot because I want to see if the different scenarios that I selected are really going to make sense. If the additional space provided to the shopper preference products are going to drive the additional traction I'm looking for. So we are going to start building the success criteria of that pilot. Then we're going to define the pilot scope. We're going to run the pilot. There will be some adjustments. We want to increase this. We want to add this, decrease that. And then we are going to have a validation steps, a go, no go, and then we roll out. And so of course, we're not doing all this. We are just accelerating this. We accelerate the financial feasibilities because we take all the data and calculate the impact. We are going to accelerate the rollout by stores or the pilot because you will see we deliver the item list to add to remove store by store. So it's always a bold move to do assortment optimization, but story shows that the results are always actually much bigger than the forecast. This being said, I'm going to very quickly drive you through the system, and so you can see how easy to use it is. So I need to click there because that's also one of the wonderful things of AI. And I think one of the very important things to do in our retail business is to make it simple. To make it simple because it's complex and qualified resources are not available all the time. This is here the list of all the scenarios that you have been creating. So, okay, here we go. So here you will see. Sorry, just one second. So here are all the scenarios that you have been creating. This is your library of scenarios. And you see that what is the impact, and you can view any of them at any time. You see some of them are maybe badly parametered. And in your view, you're going to have just a snapshot about what's the impact on my sales, what's the impact on my margin, what's the scope of my business, of my rationalization, as you can see on the left. What are the priorities of the assortment goal that I decided? What are the business rules that I selected? Here there is none. You will see how we build them. What are the protected products? There are some products which we don't want or maybe sometimes cannot rationalize because of commercial engagement, because of legal commitments. And then what are the calculation method that we did? So now what we're going to do is we're just going to create one together. And to create one rationalization example is just a few steps. The first thing, of course, it starts with your category. So you're going to select in your hierarchy which one is the category that you want to rationalize. You're going to say whether you want to include all the brands and not all the brands. And then here you will have the hierarchy of your stores and your channels, and you can select any channel, any store clusters, or any stores within a certain clusters. So I'm going to rationalize here. Here, one important point, this algorithm works on POS data. So you can choose to either use the behavior of all your customers, or if your loyal members represents an important share of your business, then you might want, and you want to have a better accuracy in your calculation, you might want to say, hey, I just want to work with my loyal customers. And here you're going to make a second very important choice, which is to say, within the cluster that I selected, do I want to have the same assortment across that cluster, or do I want to have one single optimized assortment by store? So you're going to make your choice, and you're going to say, well, in terms of history, how much history do I want? Once you've done that, you're going to define your goals. So to define your goals, you are going to say, how much weight do I want to give to sales? How much to my profitability? How much to my volume? The total, of course, should be 100. So this is as simple as moving your cursor here and there, right? So it's more difficult to bring it back, actually. Here I am. Here you will have a snapshot of your category. So in your category, in the cluster that you selected, as you know, there are always big differences in assortment. So you will have your lowest number of SKUs in the store, your median number of SKUs, and your highest one. And you probably, most of the time, people are going to define what is their assortment target after having done an analysis of their Pareto. So imagine here, I'm just going to put 12, for example. Very important for the format where I am, I'm going to here give the information about the variety that I want in terms of pack size. So at least I need to put one, right? So once I've done that, then I'm going to manage my constraints. And in my constraint, there will be constraints that are what we call business rules. So some of them are, for example, do you want to prevent empty subcat? Do you want to prevent having products orphans? Do you want to exclude products with a low service level? Is there any product types that you want to protect? So it means exclude for the calculation. It could be private label, it could be import products, it could be any type of products that you have identified as a product type. And then you can also select any specific product from all the brands that you have here. Last but not least, so this is my fourth step, I'm just going to say, in terms of calculation, how do I want to calculate my margin? So it means that looking at the selling price or looking at the purchase price over the period of time that I have selected, do I want to use the median price, the average price, or the last observed price? And that's it. From that moment, I'm going to build my scenario. Once the scenario is built, I'm coming back to that page that you were seeing here, and I can view my results. And that's the moment where I'm going to download those results, because then I want to be a little bit more specific. And if the scenario pleases me, I want to send that information for execution. So when you're coming here, you're going to have first a global summary of your results. And as you can see, you have here all the assortment in 3 color codes. You have the blue, you have the green, and you have the gray. In blue, this is all the assortment that is common across all the stores. If you are looking on the green, this is all the products that move from stores to other stores because they have been optimized. And in gray, all the items that have been permanently removed from the assortment. And then you have store by store, the type of action that the algorithm has been recommending to you. So whether you keep it, it's a new item that was not in that store, but looking at the customer segmentation and their preferences, the system look at the fact that it should be here, which are the items that you want to remove and which are the ones that have been protected. So that's the first level of reading that you have on your assortment optimization. The second one is, of course, once you have optimized your assortment, you will be willing to do the corresponding planogram. So because we are working with OPENCatman, here automatically all the assortment scenarios, assortment optimization scenarios, will be directly downloaded to the OPENCatman file format. So it can be uploaded or create a direct connection. Then now you're also going to have a better reading about what's the impact of your assortment on the range effectiveness. So you are going to look at the evolution before and after, about your share-based SKU, sales contribution, effectiveness margin, margin contribution. And last but not least, you'll also be able to measure the impact on your price structure. So we're taking a very simple, very basic, good, better, best, 33, 33, 33. But the category manager or the marketer can see that if I validate that, this is what's going to happen to my perceived price image once the shopper is in front of the shelf. And last but not least, that assortment rationalization must be executed. So execution means at least two things. First is informing supply chain to put the right codes in the right system, so the dispatch can start or stop, so some returns can be done. But also for every branch manager and associates to have the precise details about which item is going to stay, which item is going to arrive, and which item is going to move. So automatically the system is going to generate store by store the list of all what is going to happen in the assortment. And as you can see here, this is what is happening here. And because sometimes, of course, we want the branches to be informed, here there is the impact on the sales value, the sales after, the margin value before, the margin value after. So it can really help justify the fact that this rationalization, which is going to globally generate an impact on sales of X, is also going to generate an impact of Y on margin and profitability. It takes roughly 30 minutes, and I'm coming back to my last slide. It takes roughly 30 minutes to optimize a category of 100 SKUs across 200 stores. So I think, again, paraphrasing what Bill and Brian were saying before, it's a question of efficiency. Because if you are doing this or try to do this manually, and I'm sure you've been through optimization exercise, it really takes ages, right? And at the same time, there is all these things that are automatically generated that are sure not to be missed, like calculating the sales impact, calculating the value impact, measuring the impact on the merchandise structure and on the price image, delivering the complete list of assortment by store, identifying the core assortment, and my OPENCatman files are ready. So that's it for me as a simple, quick, practical view of how AI can help in the daily life of category managers or managers.
This is impressive, Frederic. Thank you so much, Frederic, from Thailandia. Well, from France, but in Thailandia, I would say. Thank you so much for sharing this solution. It's an amazing solution that helps all category managers to make decisions faster. I mean, all is question of time. One question, only one question, Frederic. Is this tool adapted for a retailer only, or can be adapted for a manufacturer?
Well, actually, it's for both, because the only constraint is that the manufacturer must have access to the POS data. So the last work we are actually working on, it's a toy supplier in Kenya. So is doing the assortment rationalization for the retailer. And one of the points that you were mentioning earlier, that also Brian and Bill were mentioning, is the idea of collaboration. So it's more and more frequent that in the JBPs that can be agreed between both parties, There is, first of all, a transparency on the data, but also there is a reallocation of some of the work to the supplier. And I've been a retailer. Nobody knows the category better than the manufacturer, right? So now we're also working on a case with a confectionery supplier. Well, he's doing the job for the retailer because he knows better.
So that's fine. So that means that maybe a retailer may implement your tool to make decisions on each category and start collaborating with manufacturers to help him to make the decisions.
Or yes, and the other scenario is also true. It means that the manufacturers go to see the retailer and say, hey, we've been talking about rationalizing this category for a long time. You know that the effectiveness of the range is very unequal across the different subcategories and brands. I have a solution. Give me the POS data. I deliver to you scenario in 3 days.
Well, talking from Latin America, where we are working with manufacturers and retailers, I do think that there is a great opportunity for those companies to make decisions faster. So thank you so much for sharing your product, your experience, amazing experience in retail globally. Frederic, maybe Diana, could you share the email of Frederic, because maybe some of you will be interested to ask more questions about how your tool is working. So now, Diana,
just one word, if I may, Frederic, and I think most of the speakers are going to say the same. Brian and B also said it. For all the people who are interested in AI, so it's not as frightening as it is. That's one. Now, the second thing, and I really love the slide with the 5 points, with the 5 things, how to start. But the thing that is going to come again and again and again is pay attention to your data, because that's really what us, I would say, consultants or solution provider are fighting the most with. So it's maybe one of the first things to do is to start as, okay, how am I managing my data governance? How do I do this?
This is real perfect words for our future in category management. Thank you so much, Frederic. Thank you for sharing this solution, and good night. Now it may be midnight in Thailandia. Thank you so much for the effort of being part of this event. We will meet again, surely.
Thank you.
Thank you so
and
much.
have a great workshop, everybody.
Thank you so much.